Welcome to the Filmanalysis, today with Heat by Michael Mann. Released in 1995, certainly one of the greatest films of the 20th century. It also marks the first time two giants meet, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Whenever one wants to talk about the Oscars in the future, it should be mentioned that Heat did not win one. It's crazy when you look at this film and when you look at what film won an Oscar in 1995. Not just one Oscar, but several, Forrest Gump. But let's keep quiet about the Oscars. Let's rather talk about the good, the beautiful, and the true. Let's talk about Heat. The film begins with the arrival of a tram in Los Angeles. It's referencing the Lumiere brothers film from 1895, exactly 100 years earlier, in which a train arrives. One of the first films ever made. Soon after, we see a robbery of an armored car, reminiscent of a Western. Finally, we arrive in the modern age. The gangsters steal no gold, no money, only bearer bonds. They belong to a stock market speculator whom we will get to know. However, he loses nothing. The insurance company should step in. Everything is channeled through the Cayman Islands. Heat tells us how money flows all over the place. The financial markets have long been at the root of this modern business world, and it is not as pure as the calves of the stock market speculators. We will see. 3 people are shot dead in the robbery because of the freelance and hired gangster Waingro. It's difficult to work with him professionally because he's too unpredictable. He is crazy. He is one of who doesn't care about anything, murdering everyone who looks at him askance. The gangsters' leader, Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro, wants Waingro out of the way as he seems too dangerous. McCauley prefers expertise, craftsmanship, and a steady hand over unpredictability. Waingro manages to escape, and we will see him again. The next man follows suit, but it's not so easy after all. The police are on the gangsters' heels. Finally, a bank robbery occurs, a gigantic street battle unlike anything seen before in Hollywood between the gangsters and the cops. Al Pacino plays the lieutenant of the homicide squad. He is trailing the gangsters. The story is quite simple. A cop against a gangster. All boils down to a duel. Not quite right. There are 2 duels. One verbal duel, quite the special one. We'll talk about that later. Namely, when Al Pacino and Robert De Niro meet. Additionally, there is a classic duel, if you like. As simple as the film is, it is just as virtuosic. Virtuoso, yes. There's the completely uninhibited Waingro. There's Chris, played by Val Kilmer, somehow preserving a yearning for bourgeoisie but unable to live up to it. There is Danny Trejo, perhaps the only one in the entire film who truly lives, at least if we believe his words at the end. There are the women, Val Kilmer's wife, cheating on him. Why exactly? We don't know why she stays with him, but there is a bond. There is Pacino's wife, who too often must wait for him in vain. She is a femme fatale. She fits a film noir very well, but a femme fatale whose impact is no longer enough to make Pacino stay with her. He is too enraptured by crime. And there is the perfectly innocent Edie, played by Amy Brenneman. She meets De Niro. He's dismissive at first, can't believe this young, beautiful woman is interested in him. But this graphic designer seems to find something in him. She has no idea what he's doing, but she wants to stay with him even then. And there are these moments of happiness that Michael Mann stages magnificently. At the same time, the repeated moments of decisions. De Niro must decide. Everyone must decide all the time. De Niro is eager to set everything up so that he can leave it in 30 seconds. His flat looks accordingly. It's spectacularly large and well located, but contains no furniture. De Niro is the one who chooses most excessively. He will literally turn the wheel. It's terrific how Michael Mann manages to capture that decision when you are very briefly in limbo, when anything is possible. In that final car ride of De Niro and Edie, that's when we see the decision act become image. Pacino, too, is a loner. His third marriage is on the rocks, and he never lets go of his work, his life. He keeps trying to establish a private life, but that can only fail. Heat concerns loneliness. Everything is cool but replaceable. The stolen bonds are. They possess a high fungibility, as is business lingo, and interchangeability applying equally to the characters. Only fleeting encounters remain poignant. For example, when Pacino comforts the mother of a murdered prostitute, it only lasts for a very short time, but it is perhaps these encounters this modern cold world still somehow allows, still ensuring the interpersonal. These moments. Loneliness also becomes an image in Michael Mann's work. This Los Angeles is gray, blue, sometimes it shimmers a little green. Los Angeles has been filmed to death, and now we see the city as never before. The genius of Michael Mann. He studies reality. He sends teams out looking at all kinds of places to see if they can find something somewhere in Los Angeles unseen before. Michael Mann has his actors train for 3 months so that they handle all the firearms with aplomb. Michael Mann met with real cops and gangsters, role modeling for the actors. He forms a cinematic reality, a reality we don't encounter when simply walking through Los Angeles. The cinematic reality is much more real. Mann's work features the real Los Angeles. If you were to visit it, it would only seem like a copy. And this cinematic reality is of oppressive beauty. Cinema consists of working with light, and the light here does not simply illuminate the scene. Above all, it is about film's immanent sources of light that are worked with very strongly and excessively. The light itself marks the stage for this, and one need not to be afraid to use this word wonderful opera. The light provides a special pull, even though heat seems cruel at times. Wolfgang Schiebelbusch writes the following in his book Disenchanted Night, The Industrialization of Light in the 19th Century. Common to all these media, from the diorama to the cinemascope screen, is a darkened auditorium and a brightly illuminated image. These have remained constant despite all the technical changes of the last 150 years. In light-based media, light does not simply illuminate existing scenes, it creates them. The world of the diorama and the cinema is an illusory dream world that light opens up to the viewer. He can lose himself in it in the same way that he can submerge himself in contemplating the flame of a campfire or a candle. In this respect, the film is closer to the fire than to the theater. End of quote. A fire warming us at times in the film, but it also renders us shivering. We see a radically individualized world here. The most extreme form of this individualization embodies Waingro, played by Kevin Gage. He does as he pleases and bears no consideration for anyone. He murders wherever he can and wherever he feels like it. De Niro differs a little. While he also disregards the law and wants to leave everything in 30 seconds, De Niro would never kill out of a desire for evil. Max Stirner's book, The Ego and Its Own, held a great plea for egoism in the 19th century. He wrote, "The only thing I am not entitled to is what I do not do with a free cheer, i.e., what I do not entitle myself to. I decide whether it is the right thing in me. There is no right outside me. If it is right for me, it is right. Possibly this may not suffice to make it right for the rest, i.e., their care, not mine. Let them defend themselves. And if for the whole world something were not right, but it were right for me, i.e., I wanted it, then I would ask nothing about the whole world, so everyone does who knows how to value himself, everyone in the degree that he is an egoist, for might goes before right, and that with perfect right." End of quote. The liberty of saying, that's what I do, I don't take anybody into consideration, I'm going this way, I'm turning the wheel, that's what heat is all about. Michael Mann grounds this philosophy or even social order that it has become with a great sadness, sometimes maybe even with a little sentimentality, but certainly not with kitsch. Pacino, after all, still feels responsible. He is not quite like De Niro yet. He feels responsible for his stepdaughter, for example. He's also a transgressive figure with a strong tendency towards crime. Police and crime are close mirror images of each other. Even the border blurs. Just consider French Connection. Such interpretation doesn't constitute the core of Heat, however, rather the final scene between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. After 90 minutes they sit in a restaurant. Michael Mann proves his excellency. A great director retreats and remains modest with these two giants facing each other. It's not a question of choosing some original angle. Michael Mann decides to show the entire encounter. Medium close-up and close-up, filmed over the shoulder, shot, countershot, no gimmicks. The meeting of these two exceptional actors is the event, with brilliant dialogue adding to the scene. These two have seen it all, but were yet to reveal their inner lives, fears and motivations. It is the most intimate moment in the entire film. One also calls the other a brother, but they could also call each other lovers, so alike that, of course, living together would be impossible. They are one and yet still different because one of them has not taken the final step of switching to the other side. That is what somehow holds him. And for the other, something else keeps him from changing. When Pacino sees De Niro for the first time, Pacino is right up there and can look down on the street. De Niro comes out of a pub with many others. But intuitively, Pacino recognizes De Niro directly and asks, "Who's the loner?" Well, who is the loner? Pacino immediately recognizes himself in the other. He investigates his reflection even when shadowing. When Robert De Niro stands there and is filmed by the camera and on the monitor, you don't see a real face, but almost a white mask. But this mask also seems to fit Pacino's face. Persona also means mask. Later, De Niro, the other way around, observes Pacino from a distance in the container pod from far above, takes his picture. Pacino follows De Niro in the car. They agree to grab a coffee. It is, you could say, love at first sight. But not in the mundane sense, not the story of a thwarted romantic relationship between two men. It's not like Pearl Harbor where you are just looking for a roundabout way to prevent it. No, Michael Mann touches the essential. The two men recognize themselves in each other, carrying a deep, also professional respect for each other. It takes one to know one, comes to mind. Unlike any other in this film, the two have grasped modernity. Neither one nor the other could have such a conversation with their colleagues or with women. Stirner's euphoric egoism concludes with the following words: "Every higher essence above me, be it God, be it man, weakens the feeling of my uniqueness and pales only before the sun of this consciousness. If I concern myself for myself, the unique one, then my concern rests on its transitory, mortal creator who consumes himself, and I may say all things are nothing to me." End of quote. But what does that mean? All things are nothing to me? Heat is telling. Pacino speaks of a silent nothingness in his dream, forcing him to see all the victims he fought for, the latter remaining silent. This silent nothingness condemns Al Pacino and De Niro both to loneliness. This ego can no longer be imprisoned, but would rather die. That's what De Niro says, that's what he prophesies. A life resulting in permanent escape. The two men must remain individuals. At some point they committed to it, there's no turning back. But there are moments of connection and conversation, or even when they hold each other's hand. A final consolation that many preachers of individualism will perhaps fail to recognize. Heat is also marked by a sadness about isolation. It represents obviously a brutal film. Hundreds, thousands of bullets are fired, but all this should not render one oblivious to Heat's deep tenderness. Many repeat the following cliché nowadays: men couldn't talk about their feelings but should. They are being offered some kind of non-fiction book dwelling on our feelings, some coaching seminars, all that times of emotional striptease, visible on Instagram, where today's influencers are constantly filming themselves crying, pretending to reveal their feelings. It's all nonsense, as Heat illustrates. To truly understand one another and reveal feelings doesn't require talk. It takes one scene. One scene suffices for us not to watch, but see. It would be nice if you would like to support the Filmanalyse financially. You can do so via my bank account or PayPal. Also, you can find me on Patreon. Thank you very much.